So the evening, we have two parts to the evening. The first part is the annual general meeting, and we are prescribed by our rules, our governing rules, in how that works, and I'll go through that in a minute. And then after that, we'll have a break about 8 o'clock, and then we'll have quite an interesting discussion, very topical, very of the moment, about retrofit, about standards, about how we set those standards and what they look like. And we really want to involve members and non-members in that discussion. We've got 4 fantastic presenters for that. So yeah, we'll have this bit and we'll have that bit. Just a little bit about Carbon Co-op, because I know not everyone is a member and maybe some people are quite new to us as well. We're a community benefit society, a community energy group, not for profit, and we exist primarily, in our rules again, to tackle climate change, to bring people together to make significant changes in their lives, in their homes, in their communities, to tackle the threat of climate change. And if you could boil it down to its innermost, it's about collective action on climate change, because we know that we have to work together to tackle something of such a scale. Now, that thing, community benefit society, what that means is that we're incorporated as that. So we're not a company limited by a guarantee or a charity, we're a community benefit society. And we operate for the benefit of the community to tackle climate change. And we also have members. And we don't just operate for the benefit of members, but being a member means you can contribute to the organisation, to its running an organisation, the board, and be part of something amazing and making that happen. And at the annual general meeting, that's an opportunity for the members to come together to review the past year, to see what's been happening, and to make some decisions about the year to come. And that's what the annual general meeting is about. It happens once a year. It's part of our rules, but it's something good because it's something we can involve lots of people in. As we go through the different bits of the agenda, I'd really like to highlight a couple of things at the bottom there. The first thing is the rules. So when we incorporate as a community benefit society, we did so with a set of rules, and those rules are then they're then registered with our regulator, which is the FCA. And the rules set out how this annual general meeting takes place, who can vote, how they can vote, and that sort of thing. As I said, the voting is for the members, but everyone is welcome to participate and be involved and to contribute, but only members can vote. And Anika will come on to that in a sec. The second thing is the papers. There's a link there to the papers. Hopefully everyone's had an email as well. If you're a member, you should have it. Look in your spam box if you can't find it. But if you go to that link of the Carbon Co-op website, it's not linked, it's the AGM one. It's got all the papers in it, and all the things we'll be going through, they're all there. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Anika now, but one thing I would say is the event's been recorded, and we'll make the recording available, so bear that in mind. And secondly, all the minutes, everything, they'll all be made available as well. All the slides, all the presentations. So if you want to catch up on them at a later point, you're more than welcome to. So Anika, you're going to tell us about the Slido technology.
So as Jonathan said, this is an AGM, and in an AGM, all the members have to vote on various sort of resolutions. And so we've looked around and found a way to do that using something called Slido. And it seems like the simplest way for it to work, and hopefully it does work. So whilst anyone can attend, only members can vote. So that's why we've uploaded all the emails of our members to Slido. So we'll have the email that we have on the system for you. So you might have become a member a while ago and changed your email. In that case, you might have a bit of a problem. So just get in touch with me on the Zoom chat, and I'll sort of upload your email to Slido so you can get on it. So the way that we're going to run this session is that the Zoom chat is for IT related issues only, except for unless you are a non-member and you've got a question during the AGM. But otherwise, for the rest of the evening, the Zoom chat is just for IT issues, which I think people have mostly been sticking to, so that's great. So on Slido, we can vote on polls, and also you can ask questions and make comments, and then those will appear on the screen, so everyone will be able to see them on their devices and also on the screen. And also during the panel discussion, the second half, because we want to be able to enable everyone to get involved in that, not just members, we have another Slido account with a different entry code. So everyone will have to re-enter a new code into Slido to access that, to then be able to ask questions. So it should be fairly simple, but if you do have any issues, do get in touch on the Zoom chat and we can solve them. And if you've got any questions about this now, again, use the Zoom chat to sort of ask your question. There's one there at the moment and I will answer that in a minute. So Jonathan, could you go on to the next slide? So I've actually said lots of this already. So when you ask your questions or make comments, you can be anonymous if you'd like to, or you can put your name in. And then when the voting poll is activated, it'll automatically pop up on the screen. And I'd recommend, if you've not done it already, using Slido on your phone, just because it depends on how you use your laptop. But I think when I look at Zoom, it's sort of taking up most of the screen, and so then I can sort of look at a different screen for the poll. Or you could also just do it in your browser and sort of split them so you can see both. And vote within 30 seconds if that's okay, and the results will appear in the presentation as people vote, so we'll be able to see. So hopefully that all makes sense. So we'll see if this is working, if everyone's on Slido. On the next slide, we'll have the live test poll. We'll see. So we can see that 28 people have voted so far. Did Carol Baskin feed her husband to the tigers? What is this about? Most people don't know what this is about because they didn't watch Tiger King. Although quite a sort of maybe a fifth of people, under a fifth, said yes, and a few people think no. So we can see sort of there roughly how polling is going to work, and a little bit about us all. So that's all from me for now, and I'll carry on helping sort of behind the scenes, trying to help people get on the side if they're not on Slido. But it'd be really good if all members could get on there, because that's how we vote and that's how we have a quorum.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, do try and get on. We're going to try and run this voting and do our best to do it. If we can't, if there's problems, do bear with us. Apologies for that, but we're doing our best we can in the circumstances and the online polls. So, yeah. Okay, let's crack on then. So, after Carol, yes. We're going to do a really short breakout session. So this is an opportunity to say hello to other people who are here. And what we're going to do is set up breakout rooms, which I can't see. Can any of the other hosts see the breakout rooms? Sorry, just bear with us. Breakout rooms. Okay. Okay, so we're going to send people into breakout rooms. There's going to be 2 to 3 people per breakout room, and we're going to have 3 minutes. And it's just a chance to introduce yourselves to each other, to say hello, for people to get to meet each other. And yeah, just a quick introduction. Okay, you should see an option to join a breakout room. So yeah, click on that and you'll disappear into the breakout room.
I'll do a sec.
I was all alone in my breakout room, so I came back.
Oh, that's a shame.
Mariam was also the only person in her breakout room. Maybe this is a sort of mini breakout room. Has everyone got onto Slido? This is probably the only thing I'm going to say this evening.
Right. Okay. So we've had 3+ minutes. I'm going to bring everyone back.
Okay, we'll catch up later, perhaps.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I hope that was interesting. I hope people got to meet some interesting people in the breakout room session. I know it's a bit hit and miss, but it can be really interesting. I met some people from Kenya in the last one I was in. Okay, so on with the agenda then, after our introductions, and our first opportunity to vote. Okay, so in ordinary times, we would call for hands in the room and elect a chair. But because the chairing of this meeting is quite a technical process and there's quite a lot to it, we've pre-nominated from the board Matt Sanderson. Do you want to say hello, Matt? Ooh, I wonder if you're able to unmute yourself. Oh, Matt, are you there? Let's just see. Oh, dear. I've got Matt on the phone. Just a second. Apologies. The joys of online meetings. So Matt's computer crashed and he's just coming in now. Apologies, he'll just be a second. Well, actually, we don't need to. He is coming in, so we could press ahead with the voting on Matt to become to be elected as chair. So, Anika, do I just progress on to the next? Here he is.
Yes, just click forward in the presentation.
Okay.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Sorry about that. Windows 10, bless it, decided to. Oh, it's done it again.
Are you going to lose you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to try and come in using a different device.
Okay, we'll give it a couple of minutes. So we'll have a brief pause while Matt
It's all
rejoins
right.
us.
This might be a good opportunity for anyone who's struggling with Slido to let us know.
Shall I go back to the Slido slide?
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
Okay, so to enable us to vote, you need to click onto Slido and to enter that event code.
And then after you've entered the event code, people don't realise that you have to put in your email, and then a code will be sent to your inbox, your email inbox. You take that code and you put that new code into Slido, and then you'll be on.
Matt, are you still with us?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
Right. Yeah, I'm just coming in. I'm going to be using my phone probably, so
Okay.
it might not be the best.
Okay, you there, Matt?
Yep, good evening, everybody. Jonathan, can you just reassign me to be co-host again?
Yes,
seems to
you
have dropped
should
off.
be.
Okay, thanks. It's a different device, so you'll need to re-update it.
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and yeah, welcome to the AGM. I don't look quite as slim and trim as I do in that photograph today. That's the downside of lockdown, I guess. Anyway, yes, to introduce myself, my name, as I say, is Matt. I've been with Carbon Co-op as a board member for a year or so since the last AGM, and my interest really is in future energy systems and power systems. I work as a PhD researcher at the University of Manchester. I also, in the past, I've worked for many years in the dreaded oil and gas industry as a surveyor. Apologies now. And I suppose it's probably really because of a sense of guilt that my wife and I, who also works in the same industry, have really started to consider our whole kind of carbon footprint in a very big way, and what can we do to reduce and hopefully even reverse our impact on the planet. So that's me. So that's my involvement with the Carbon Co-op, and yeah, welcome to the AGM.
Okay, brilliant. So we have to formally adopt you as the chair of the AGM. So we're going to start the first poll of the evening after the Tiger King one. So, okay, so you vote to elect the chair. If you could go on to Slido, brilliant, someone's done it. Excellent. And we're going to give 30 seconds for this.
I take it I can't vote for myself, so I'm not going to anyway.
So just a reminder for people, it's only members that can vote in these polls during the AGM. Everyone else is welcome to ask questions and to make comments, but it's just members for voting. Okay.
Okay, I'm deactivating the poll.
Fantastic. So 100%, that's 28 people have voted to elect Matt as the chair. Matt, officially you're in control now.
Great, thank you very much. Well, I think we now move to another Slido poll where members who are present, if you can register your name. In terms of apologies, I understand from Jonathan that we haven't actually received any apologies from members who couldn't make it. So can we fire up the next Slido poll, please?
Yeah. So this is an opportunity. So this is the register basically. And in a normal meeting, we'd go around the room and people would register who's here. So if you're a member and you're here, please register your name. And obviously these will be included in the minutes of the meeting, and it helps us understand. To be correct, it's quite a low number, it's 4 members, but the more members the better.
Okay, we've got 28 votes in there, or 28 responses. I think it's, no, we got 30. We must have a few more members here.
Mm-hmm. Few more seconds in case we've got anyone else who's showing your hands.
31. Thank you, John.
Okay.
Okay, so there we go. We have completed now the register of members present, and the next step is accepting or reviewing and voting to accept the minutes of the last meeting, last AGM. Jonathan, would you like to take us through this, please?
Yes. So here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Fantastic. So these are the minutes of the meeting from the Friends Meeting House in April. You can see the members present. Most of the business report on the meeting, the presentation of accounts were approved. The appointment of an auditor was set aside, the need to do that. The board was elected, as Matt says, he was one of them. And there was a call, and we'll go through this again, to increase the diversity of the board, and a couple of people, Ivana and Carla, stood as observers and have attended board meetings and have since been, well, Ivana's been co-opted, Carla's standing this year. Okay. So Anika,
Okay.
can people raise objections or amendments?
People can comment when after each thing there's a sort of point to comment.
Yeah.
And then I could adapt, if we decide as a group to adapt the resolution, I can do that and reset the poll.
Right. So do we then move to poll then first?
Yep, let's do so.
Yeah.
I think if anybody has a question that they're happy asking in open forum, send it using the Q&A. If anybody has a question that they would rather ask privately, maybe do that by email to Anika.
Yes, and there's a question on there, which is, where did I say the papers were? They're online. They're, people were sent, or members were sent an email yesterday. So yeah.
I'll put them back into the chat, the Zoom
yes,
chat.
that'd be great. Yeah.
It's also in the Slido chat area.
Fantastic. So shall we move to the vote on accepting the minutes of the last meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so there could be one more person to vote because we had 31 members, but we've got 30, yeah, and
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, we got 32 now.
32, fantastic.
Excellent. You've not voted twice, have you, Jonathan?
Oh.
Okay, so 3/4 of our membership, or just over, have accepted the minutes. Just under a quarter abstained, and we had no objections. So I think we can take the minutes as adopted and move on to the next item. And that's for Jonathan to give us a bit of a presentation about what we've done this year and what our future plans are. And yeah, I might have to hurry you a little.
Yes, sorry, I know time is of the essence, so I'm not going to go on too much. So this is just a brief overview, really. And I just wanted to start with the impact of the COVID outbreak, because I know a lot of people will be concerned about the impact it's had on the co-op. In simple terms, staff have been working remotely through the lockdown. And as the restrictions have relaxed, people have started coming back to the office, and we've risk assessed everything. But it's fair to say that a lot of people are still working remotely. Online training has really taken off. A bit like the AGM to begin with, it's a bit strange, but we found a massive, huge new audience. We regularly get around 100 people attending our webinars, where before we were doing sessions with 20, 30, 40 people. And the people are coming from all over the country, which is fantastic. People will be concerned about the funding situation. Carbon Co-op is a mixed model with some income generation and some funding. And for the moment, the funding situation is pretty stable. And actually, a lot of the demand for the things we're doing is still quite strong as well. In fact, there are a lot more opportunities out there for our organisation. So in purely financial terms, we're doing fairly well. And we'll come on to that. And home visits and surveys and installations are restarting now, all with appropriate risk assessments in place. In general terms, what's happening at Carbon Co-op? Well, there is now a growing emphasis on services and delivering services for members and for the wider community, rather than simply delivering discrete projects. And people-powered retrofit, obviously the energy efficiency end-to-end service is one of the most high profile, and we're also involved with Power Shaper. Power Shaper is our project in the demand side response sphere of things, turning devices on and off, electric vehicles, batteries, heat pumps, that sort of thing. And services becoming more and more what we do. People-powered retrofit, just to touch on this, really is a groundbreaking service that we're now offering. This is an end-to-end service for householders, from advice through to procurement of retrofit. It's being funded by the Department of Business, Energy Industrial Strategy, the government, and that underwrites the time that we've taken to develop it and deliver it, but it doesn't pay for works, so to speak. It doesn't pay for capital works. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on this. We've got now 50 clients coming through the service at various stages, but we've also done a lot of work with contractors in the Greater Manchester area, and we've developed our back-end IT tools significantly as well. And we're sharing the learning from this and slowly inducting more people into it. Yeah, there's a lot of impact here for the rest of the UK in terms of how people can deliver retrofit more widely. And I know a lot of people will have heard about the Green Homes Grant Scheme that came out last week. We've had a lot of inquiries about this. We've been featured in the national newspapers as well, and that's stimulated more. I would say there's a lot of question marks still about this, and we're actually working with BEIS to help them design this scheme to make the most of it, to make sure the money that's out there isn't wasted. Anika has written a really good blog which kind of outlines the information we know at the moment and our position really on the scheme and how it might be useful for people. We're also running a webinar on the 14th of August when we hope there will be some more concrete information about the scheme and how it'll be delivered. So do look out for that. The membership has really took off as well, and a lot of people, this may be your first AGM, and welcome to you. Yeah, we've had more people joining. We've got 240 members now. That's maybe nearly 100 more than last year. So the speed at which people are joining is fantastic. We're a growing movement, a growing organisation. I think we're conscious that we could be doing more to support members and support membership and support the peer learning and networking that comes with that. We ran a fantastic event in March. Marion managed this, and it was absolutely fantastic. For nearly 70 people there, lots of learning, lots of interaction, lots of skills just before lockdown. So the world has kind of changed since then, but we're thinking and rethinking about how we can facilitate that member engagement involvement. And we have a new member of staff, Matt Franklin, and his role is to kind of do this and look at membership as well. And Energy Commons as well as the Retrofit team and the Energy Systems team. We have a whole new team, Energy Commons, which is based around municipalities and Commonwealth and building Commonwealth within local communities. Laura's going to talk a little bit, just very briefly, about a new end for the organisation that we're going to be pitching around this, but it's really taking off this side of things. So just to end, challenges for the year ahead, transitioning. Oops, sorry, I'm getting a bit of feedback from you, Matt. So Matt wants to just briefly, mute. Transitioning from an organisation that worked on a project by project basis to one that's more delivering services on an ongoing basis, and without becoming kind of a money grabbing, focused on just income generating. That's a challenge, basically. Transitioning to services is a different set of skill set, but it's one that we're well on the way with. There's the challenge of growing as an organisation. We're now 15 members of staff. We're 250 members nearly, and more on the way. And to try and keep that radical vision, radical carbon saving, but also radical social and environmental mission as well. Maximising member involvement is a challenge as we grow, to try and involve lots of people. And something we've noticed with the lockdown is we're getting members from all over the country now, and we're becoming more of a national organisation. So trying to involve members, find online ways to support them, and peer learning and peer sharing, that's a challenge. And linked to that of growing membership is collecting and evaluating the data on the impact that we're having with members, the carbon we're saving, the changes that we're seeing. And we've got a whole digital transformation project that we're working on this year as well, to try and capture more of that data and to help members make more of that data. And obviously there are risks about the COVID outbreak and the wider impact that might have on society. We want to say a really big thank you to all the members, all the people that have stood for the board and have contributed that way and contributed in all sorts of ways, and to the people that are funding us and funding some of our work as well. I believe the next thing is any questions on that, on the kind of where we're at. Is that correct, Anika?
Yes. If you want to pop your questions into Slido, that would be great. I know not everyone's been able to get onto Slido, and we'll have to use the Zoom chat. And yeah, we have a preference for people not to use Zoom chat if they can help it, but if that's what they have to do, then go for it.
Do the questions come up on this screen, Anika?
Yes. So if anyone's got any questions, get them in.
Okay, so that's an interesting question about whether we should be moving nationwide. I would say there's sort of two answers to that. One answer to that is that we focus on doing really good things in Greater Manchester and trying to innovate things here and develop new things here and roll them out here. And because it's within our sphere of influence, we can travel to homes, we can bring people together here. And the way that we've thought about replicating or broadening it beyond Greater Manchester is to replicate what we do with other like-minded organisations. So there is a network of community energy organisations around the UK. There's sustainability charities such as the Centre for Sustainable Energy or Cumbria Action for Sustainability. And our focus is to share our tools, our learning with them and to grow that way. But one thing I would say is that increasingly we're finding ways that we can deliver the things that we have been doing on a wider basis, using internet technology, and also things like the Energy Commons team. We were able to travel to other cities to help them do similar things to the things we're doing. And in terms of people-powered retrofit, it's really within a travel area of Greater Manchester. So we do have some people in Lancashire, some people in Liverpool, some people in Cheshire, quite a lot of people in Cheshire, and people towards Sheffield as well. So we're able to work on that kind of basis. Again, we're really minded not to compete with other community energy groups and people like that. So yeah, we don't want to step on anyone's toes. How do you plan to support people applying for the Green Homes grant? The problem or the issue at the moment is there's not enough detail to enable us to know how to do that. We've suggested a number of ways that we could help people to the government, to BEARS, who are designing the scheme. Yes, it's going live in 6 weeks. So to act as an intermediary, to offer advice, to do assessments for people. So that's the kind of way we think we'll be able to help people, offer retrofit coordinator services as well to help with quality and procurement. But I have to say the details of the scheme are still out there at the moment. When you say the moving services, oops, that's gone. Is a risk. I went.
Jonathan,
yeah, go on.
Could you reset Matt's co-host status, please?
Matt Sanderson.
Yes.
Yes, I will. Does anyone else from the team want to answer some of these questions?
I can.
Yeah, go on.
Have you talked about people-powered retrofit in Greater Manchester?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was one I was going to answer.
More members, is it because we're doing more webinars?
Yeah, I guess I could also say a little bit about the Green Homes grant.
Yes.
We are basically in touch with the government and looking into it. We can't make any promises now because we don't actually know exactly how the scheme will run, who the accredited contractors will be, what kind of deadlines there'll be, those sorts of things. I mean, they have. So we're working on it, but we are hosting a webinar on the 13th of August, where hopefully we have more information, can give people more information about how they can access that grant and ways in which we can support them.
Cool. And we'll probably do this as the last question because we've got to move on. So more members, more webinars. Part of it is more webinars and more exposure, but part of it is we're just doing more and more high profile stuff. We're getting more coverage. People are seeing what we're doing and people are excited by that and want to join. So I think that's one of the reasons we're getting more members, the high profile nature of what we're doing. I think also the environment, you've seen climate emergency, Extinction Rebellion, it's really at the top of people's agenda. I know COVID has overtaken that for at least for now, but a green recovery and yeah, climate emergency is really part of that. So I think all those things together mean that yeah, more people are joining, which is fantastic.
Great,
Hey.
thank you very much, Jonathan and Anika. It certainly looks like we've got a lot going on and upcoming. The next item on the agenda is a change to the END policy. ENDs, of course, being the aims or objectives of the organisation. And I'm going to ask Matt Fawcett if you could please say...
It's Laura, this one. This one's Laura.
Oh, this one's Laura, is it?
Yes.
Hello,
right, okay.
That's me. Hi.
Sorry, Laura, I'm reading the wrong thing on the...
That's okay,
agenda.
don't worry, it gets confusing
Sorry,
with all the
Laura.
tech.
Sorry
Hi
about
everyone, that's okay. Shall I go?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, so I'm Laura from the Energy Commons team, and I just wanted to come and propose a slight change to one of the ENDS policies for Carbon Co-op, mainly because of the creation of this new team, the Energy Commons team, that has come out of our work on working with local authorities. So over the last 2 years, I've been running an education programme with a couple of other people within Carbon Co-op on bringing together different municipalities to think about what the energy transition could look like locally. And within that process, we've really been working with, I think there's 100 local authorities in the network, and we work directly with 28. So we've already started expanding to working with a number of different cities. And through that process, we've been expanding our idea of what the energy transition could look like in different areas and the process by which that should happen. So to kind of reflect the work that this team is doing, me and the team got together to think about how we could reflect that in the ends of the organisation. So we've come up with this, so the one towards the bottom of the slide, which reads, sustainable energy systems are realised, owned and controlled in common by locally rooted representative institutions, organisations and citizens, maximising social value. So to break that down a little bit, sustainable energy systems, so that's your retrofit, your wider energy systems, which is the kind of level that we've been working at with local authorities. Realised, owned and controlled, so that's the process by which we want the energy transition to happen, and then how it can be owned over the long term. So that's really resonating with our democratic ideals as a cooperative. Locally rooted representative institutions, organisations and citizens. The energy transition works at a local level. It's more efficient if it's done at the local level. So we really want to focus on what are the institutions that can carry that out. Representative, because that's an area where we want everyone who live in a locality to be taking part in talking about what the energy transition is, and particularly those that are made vulnerable by the potential impacts of climate change. They should have a seat at the table. And then finally, maximising social value. So this is about broadening the number of kinds of organisations and institutions that we're working with on developing an idea for how the energy transition could happen, and broadening our vision as well of the kinds of things that we include in the programmes that the Energy Commons team does. I know I only had 2 minutes, so I'm going to leave it at that. I realise it's quite big, but I'm really up for taking questions.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think it is worth saying that the past end was just very specific on Greater Manchester, and there's nothing wrong with that, but our ambitions is a lot wider now. Okay, so yeah, it's to vote on this then, Matt, yeah?
Yes, it is. If anybody has any questions or comments, if they can quickly put them through Slido, and we'll maybe just give it a couple of minutes before we run the vote. Okay. So if you've got any questions, guys, just quickly go for them now.
And if you're not on Slido, put them into the chat and we'll put them into Slido so they turn up.
Okay.
Phoebe asks, is this about climate justice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay, both up. Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about who are the different actors that could be involved and how the costs and benefits can be shared of the energy transition. And that's why we've got a real focus on the who element to make sure that it's something that can bring benefits to people across the spectrum.
I would just say, actually, at this stage, that this is a hugely interesting topic in academia, because on the one hand, of course, we recognise the need for people to be involved at grassroots and local levels, but at the same time, whilst ever we maintain the national grid, we do need a top level of national regulation. Otherwise, everybody's power would be coming in at all sorts of different frequencies and voltages. So there are, although it's a brilliant end, and I will be supporting it, some things need to be supported nationally.
Okay, so there's a comment here. This statement does not seem to say anything. There's nothing specific. So yeah, it is quite broad. I think that reflects that it's been developed out of an education program. And this is supposed to capture the kind of things that we talk about within that education program. There could be an argument for this being split across different ends or being an overall vision, but for the way that we coordinate across carbon co-op at the moment, I wanted to trial putting this in there. But if people have got ideas for refining it a little bit, I'd love to hear them.
And it's worth saying that the ends, the organisational ends, they're not objectives, so they're not like specific, measurable, realistic time bound. They're more broader than that, because necessarily you need to work within that. But underneath those, we have specific kind of targets and such.
Okay, Jonathan and Anika, we've had 2 or 3 minutes now for questions. Could we? Excellent, thank you.
Great, I think we're there.
Yeah, we've got 31 of our 30, however many. Oh, we've got 34 members voting now. My goodness, they're
Controversial
crawling out the
topic.
woodwork. Excellent. 35. Oh dear.
More people are joining or getting onto Slido, maybe that's something.
You've not voted twice there, have you, John?
No.
I mean, here's me logging in on a million devices. Okay, well, we have that one closed. We have the result, and it looks as though we're definitely going to support that or adopt that end. And now it's Matt's turn. So, Matt, would you like to talk to us about the proposed ethical policy?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Somebody nod at me. Hi there, everybody. So I'm Matt Fawcett from Carbon Co-op. I work on the Retrofit team. I'm also a board member currently, although you've got the ability to change that coming up any minute now. So this is a discussion which was had at our last board meeting, and it was decided we should bring this as an issue to the wider membership, really. So, as Jonathan's mentioned, we're in a sort of transition process at the moment from being quite a small team that has emerged from climate justice and environmental justice movements around Greater Manchester to being a much larger and much more high-profile organisation. So, within that process, there are a number of sort of potential hazards really for us. So this ethical partnership policy seeks to lay out the sort of organisations that we will work with. This particularly has come up more recently due to concerns about a potential partner organisation, and we really thought as a board we need a solid way of dealing with this. So it's very important that Carbon Co-op is seen as a trusted and independent organisation, and that we're seen as chiming with our members' values. And I think there's a great danger if we don't do that, that we will potentially lose members, that we will have issues with maintaining the very excellent staff team that I think we have at the moment, and also that it will limit our ability as an organisation to make change, basically. So we have a suggested policy. Can you scroll down a bit, Jonathan?
Mm-hmm.
So the first bit looks at our funders and project partners. So this is really looking at companies who seek to have their brand placed alongside that of Carbon Co-op. We're not talking about large numbers of organisations here, but it's something that we thought we should screen such organisations. So both myself and Jonathan have worked previously in former lives with the Ethical Consumer Research Association, which we're lucky to have here in Manchester. And they produce company screenings, which are just very simply a list of criticisms that have appeared about particular organisations in the public domain. So that might be lobbying, or funding climate change denying science, or it could be pollution incidents or workers' rights incidents. So the aim really is to have a full view of who the organisations are that are working with us, and whether there is, or are proposing to work with us, and whether there is any potential ramifications in terms of Carbon Co-op's standing, really. So these will be taken to the board. We will discuss any potential issues, and we will retain these documents and notes of the decisions so that they're available for membership scrutiny. So on our suppliers and contractors, we've taken a slightly different approach, because essentially what we're trying to build here is long-term ongoing relationships with smaller contractors, really, around the Greater Manchester area. So we, because of the enormous complexity of the building supply chain, we don't really have the resources to sort of do a full environmental audit of all the different grommets that go into every element of a housing retrofit. But we try and sort of mitigate that by specifically trying to seek out and recommend products that minimise their impact on the environment, and work with smaller organisations who share Carbon Co-op's ethos. So this is really a sort of starting place, really, for a broader discussion with the membership. So we very much hope that you will adopt this policy, and that you will interact and engage with us on things that are areas of concern for you as members. So I will open it up to questions, yeah.
Okay, Matt, thank you very much for that. Guys, can we again maybe give it just a couple of minutes for questions? I'm mindful of the fact we're running a bit over now, and then put it to the poll.
Waiting with bated breath.
There we go. You see that, Matt?
I can see that, yeah. So I'll take the anti-slavery one first. I mean, I think there are. This is slightly broader than that, really, in that Carbon Co-op does have an anti-slavery policy, but this is looking at organisations who put their brand alongside us. So we're looking primarily at companies in terms of funders that we're ruling out. I think we're not looking at making any sort of moral or ethical judgments about government funding, for example, or foundation funding. Oh, and maybe to touch on as there aren't any others, in terms of a score or threshold, I think because of the nature of debates around ethics, I think there are potentially a number of concerns there, aren't there, really, in terms of if we look at the solar industry, for example, there are a lot of other players from the conventional energy system. There are players from the nuclear power business. There are players from the the armaments industry. So I think it is a discussion to be had at a board level, really, about whether we think any of those are of potential concern for Carbon Co-op, and you know, who out of that mixed bag are the best for us to work with. Are the organisations, do you mean, is the Carbon Co-op a member of the Fair Tax Mark?
I guess it might relate to whether suppliers are.
Yeah, that's something we can definitely take on board. And in terms of our operating principles, I think much of that comes out in our ends policies more broadly. So where do we go into any more detail of the low carbon impacts or environmental issues? So yeah, so the technical partners we work with discuss this in quite some detail for those people who've had assessments. So the recommendations that we make tend to be for more natural materials, so breathable materials, compostable materials. In the case of insulation products, for example. Lottery funding. Well, yeah. I think we. I think we're not talking about making ethical judgments about gambling, for example. I think it's more of a case of you know, now that the money is there, what good can we do with it?
Interesting, we don't have any lottery money at the moment, but that's not to say we wouldn't, I guess.
Thank you very much, Matt. I see we've gone to the vote now. I was just mindful of your comment about the defence industry and such like, and although the weather up here in Cumbria is a little bit cloudy at the moment, from my office I can see right now the building where BAE Systems build nuclear submarines for the Royal Navy. And on a clear day, I would be able to see the world's largest offshore wind farm right out the same window. So it really is quite a dichotomy. Okay, so we've got 25 votes in so far, 96% supporting, 28 now. We have a few abstentions, no disagreements with 33. We're almost there. Okay, so we've got 34 votes. I think we had 35 last time, so let's just wait a moment. Yep, we got 35, so I think that's it. So it looks as though we are going to adopt the ethical policy. Thank you very much, Matt. And we'll move on now to the accounts. Can I just ask for the accounts, Peter, before you start, can we run questions in parallel with Peter's presentation? We are a little bit behind time, so any questions, please ask them straight away rather than waiting to the end. And then Peter can answer them at the end as best he can. Okay, if you can go for it, Peter, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Jonathan, I presume you're controlling the screen. Obviously, the first few pages of this just talk about who the organisation is and who the board members are. So, page 5 is probably the first one with any numbers on it. Key numbers here. A lot of people are confused when we see a turnover of £15,000 for the year. That's turnover from basically from trading activity. Whereas a lot of the money that comes in and goes out of the organisation comes from grants, and so that's the numbers that so the turnover at 15k. There's a little bit of profit comes out of our project work as well, about £10,000. So the operating profit for the year, or for the last year, 2019, was about £24,000, just a little over. That's what that page is telling us. If we then move on to the balance sheet, This is simply telling us, lots of different numbers there, but the key bit is the bit at the bottom, approximately £30,000 in funds available at the end of the year as a surplus. Right, I think the next bit we wanted to talk about was page 11.
Jonathan, can you zoom in a bit more?
Zoom
Someone was
in?
saying it's, yeah, that it's too small.
All right. I'm struggling on this one, Jonathan. So is
sorry,
it?
yeah. So it's some rather large figures here around the Street UK. So this, a number of members will remember a scheme we did called Community Green Deal, where we lent out money to householders. The money was gifted to us by the government. We lent it out, and it's being repaid. And these big numbers represent the total asset, which is 386,000 that was lent out, so some was lent out and some wasn't lent out. Some has been repaid, and that total is 386. And the other numbers relate to how much is being repaid already and how much is to be repaired. I guess the thing to say here is that we're hoping to spend some of this money this year on a area-based improvement scheme for people in fuel poverty.
Yeah, and then this page is just sort of restating that it gives a bit more detail on where that 15,000 in turnover comes from, and then the lower half of the page is showing where the expenses related, the various expenses that we've had over the year.
Cool.
Obviously, the big one being wages and salaries.
Yeah. Okay. So should we move to comments?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions in just now. Maybe if you could have a look at those, Peter, and then if there are no other questions, we can move on to voting for acceptance.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really in a position to answer either of those questions. We'd need to refer back to the accountants on.
Okay, fair enough.
What are the questions?
Well, the first question is, on the accounts we show an income from consultancy, but no costs associated with the delivery. Surely this should have come off before the gross profit figure. And I guess that's down to how accountants work their magic.
Yeah.
I know I've had, yeah.
And the grant income, it is shown in the breakdown.
Okay, that's great.
And the profit, so some of the trading profit is assigned to our core costs, and so that's not taxable.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Whoever asked that one, that's good. Grant money is shown, as you say. And yes, accountants, they do work their magic. I know mine did my accounts this year, so, and I still don't understand them. Okay, just give it a moment if there's any other questions. No? Okay, so could we move on then to a vote on adopting the accounts, please?
There was one more.
Okay, sorry.
Came in last minute. Oh.
I don't suppose we can go back to it, can we?
Well, I can talk. Dom says, he's basically got a question about the fact that the accounts are unaudited, but I think there's a proposal coming.
Yeah, that's standard practice for small organisations. Most small limited companies have unaudited accounts too. These are prepared by the accountants
Yes, I
and
think it's
are
quite
signed
a
off
high.
by the accountants. It's just not,
Yeah.
you know, an audit is a very expensive exercise.
Yes, there are, if I remember rightly, there's a charity commission and other requirements on or thresholds whether or not independent audits are required, and I guess we fall below that.
I think there's a resolution later, isn't there, to,
There is. There is.
to agree that we won't be audited. Yeah.
Well, that would be a voluntary audit, but I know there's thresholds, aren't there, about statutory audits. Okay, we've got 31 votes in at the moment. 32.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost there. We just got another 1 or 2 to come in. If anybody hasn't voted and they would like to, we'll give you another 30 seconds and then we'll move on. Okay, do you want to close the poll then, please, Henrika? Right, there you go. We have voted to accept the accounts, and we move on now to the appointment of an auditor or otherwise, So yes, under UK law, all community benefit societies need to employ a full audit of their accounts, something which is expensive and unnecessary. The requirement can be set aside with an annual vote at the AGM. So that's as simple as that. We can vote not to expend a great deal of money on an audit, a great deal of time and money, or we can vote to require an audit at great expense to ourselves. If anybody has any questions on this, please can you raise them now, or any comments? We'll give it 2 or 3 minutes and then we'll run a poll on whether or not we choose not to be audited.
There's a question from Anne. How much would an audit cost?
It could be something like £3,000, £4,000, £5,000. So there's Joe Carter clarifies that it's usually applied to people with turnover of more than 10 million. It is a quirk of the Community Benefit Society Act. I would also say our major grants do involve audits, but they're just of the grant spend rather than the whole organisation.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking up, and if it's a company, it's 10.2 million turnover before an audit is required.
If it's a charity, I think it's rather less.
Yes.
Certainly limited audits, at least I think as low as about 20,000. But as Jonathan says, it's different again for a CEC and a co-op. Okay, so I think we've responded to the questions. We have the poll now. So just to be clear on this, if you agree, you are voting not to require an audit. If you disagree, you are voting to require an audit. Okay, we've got 35 votes again. I think that's about the full numbers. We're 36 now even. Great. Okay, so we have voted to not require an audit. And then this moves us on to the final point of the evening, which is to vote for the election of board members. So in just a moment, I will have to step down because I will be going forward for election as well. Nominations for the board, because this is an online meeting, closed last Wednesday. However, we would say if anybody else is interested at this stage, we would like you to consider joining us for a period of time, probably I think until the next AGM, as an observer member. We did this last year. 1 or 2 people, I think, joined us as observers and are subsequently standing, I think, for election to the board. So yes, Jonathan, I hereby step down. I pass it over to you.
Okay, I'm the registered secretary. So we have myself, Matt Fawcett, Sean, Carla, Chris, Mike, Eddie, Rob, Matt, Ivana, Anne, Lloyd, and Peter Livesey, who I didn't send his picture. All you'll have received these. That's 13 people in all. You'll have received all these in the papers, or the list of all the names. We don't elect. The custom and practice of the organisation isn't to elect individual board members and vote on each in turn, but to vote all in a block. If we do pass the 15, which is our maximum size, then we will move to that voting, but maybe that's next year. Okay. So I don't know if there's any comments or questions before we move on to adoption.
Yeah, nothing's coming through side at the moment.
Okay. Okay, so vote to adopt the board to vote them on. Just a few more. Last few, or I'll give you a few more seconds to express your will, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, looks like we got no excuse, Jonathan. If I could just come back in actually at this stage, and I missed the opportunity there, just to record our thanks to Alan Mould, who stood on the board for a year. He has had to step down, so he's not rejoining us this year. But yes, thank you very much, Alan, for your service throughout the year, and hopefully that can be minuted. Yeah, and thanks to Carla and to Ivana, who observed for the year and then were co-opted. It's really good process, and having the board meetings virtually means we can involve more people from more different backgrounds and locations. Okay, now it's time for a short break. So we've got, because we've run over a bit, we'll have 5 minutes. We'll come back here at 22 minutes past 8. We've got a really fascinating presentation coming up. What makes a zero carbon ready home, with 4 fantastic panelists. So yeah, come back and see us in 5 minutes.